Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, wonderful. Conference Rice.
Thank you very much, Ivar. It is so funny to get this prize at this moment, the Compass, while I desperately needed one a few days ago to guide myself through this hotel from Tower 1 to Tower 2. It is a tremendous privilege to receive the EFC Compass Prize and follow in the footsteps of Bill White and Francis Charon, two high-caliber people who I deeply appreciate for their outstanding achievements in our field. I would like to thank the Management Committee of EFC for awarding me this prize. I would like to thank my friend Jerry for his inspirational leadership of the EFC. It has given me great joy to be associated with you over so many years as an active member of our organization. I would like to thank Ivar Samren, a former boss colleague and longtime friend, for his gracious remarks. Barry Gaberman once told me that the right response at such an occasion is to say, "My father would have appreciated the generous remarks. My mother would have believed them." Above all, I would like to thank my dear wife, Georgie, although I know that she, instead of me receiving an award for my professional work, would rather give me an award for my role as a grandfather. I'm well aware of the fact that my presence here is the last hurdle before a relaxed weekend that's long overdue, so I will be concise in what I would like to say. After retiring from Van Leer as its executive director, I focused my time and energy on 3 different domains of philanthropy and thereby on 3 different areas of work. This continues to give me a tremendous satisfaction, particularly when it involves mentoring young professionals, which makes me realize how wonderful it is that after retirement, you can choose to do just the things you like. To mention the different domains of philanthropy in which I'm actively involved serves 2 purposes. I can put some of the organizations I work with in the limelight, and I can make, by taking a helicopter view, some candid observations from a practitioner's perspective. The first domain is that of the NGOs, the recipients of foundation money, which has given me an opportunity to be involved in a range of fascinating programs. As an example, I mention my involvement as a board member of Partners in Health in Boston, the organization of the medical anthropologist Paul Farmer. Partners in Health is an organization that focuses on community health care in Haiti, Latin America, Russia, and Africa. Let me also mention the compelling work of the Weekend School in the Netherlands that provides disadvantaged children with exposure to a profession during the weekend. The second domain of my involvement is as a board member with the grant-making foundation community, with you people. There is exciting work going on in the organizations I'm associated with. Obviously, the first one that comes to mind is the Bernard Van Leer Foundation. And I would like, in the presence of my colleagues Trude Maas and Jacqueline Bakker, to commend Lisa Jordan, for the recent initiative by Van Leer to demand attention for the issue of child abuse in the Netherlands, an issue overshadowed by taboos. Van Leer deals with it by a campaign that involves children to talk about their personal experiences as victims of abuse on a popular Dutch children's TV program. By doing this, Van Leer shows exactly what foundations are there for, to seek out innovative approaches and to take risks. I would like to mention the European Cultural Foundation with its wide-ranging activities that underscore culture as a vital dimension in defining a shared understanding of what we as Europeans have in common. In a time when the project Europe is under severe pressure, it is vital to show that Europe is more than a common currency and free trade. Culture is a powerful instrument to reconnect people and to help define our shared future in Europe. As a third organization, I would like to mention the foundation created a few years ago by G-Star Raw, a well-known Dutch clothing brand. This foundation supports highly interesting work in China among migrants coming from rural areas and living on the fringes of the major cities. It is astounding to think that the few million migrant workers living along the 220-kilometer-long 6 ring road of Beijing. The G-Star Foundation focusing on enhancing the skills of these workers in the labor market in combination with developing life skills. The third area of my involvement in philanthropy is serving as the chair of the Dutch Association of Foundations. In this capacity, I'm closely involved in the negotiations concerning the legal and fiscal framework within which foundations in the Netherlands function. It allows me to act in the interface between our sector and the government, parliament, and the public at large, an item that, as we speak, sits very high on the agenda is the issue of transparency and accountability. My work in these three categories of organizations allows me, as I said before, to take a helicopter view and to make some observations that, in my opinion, are worthwhile sharing with you. These observations, and I only will make two, deal with the relations between NGOs and foundations and with the public space in which we operate as foundations. First of all, through the eyes of the NGOs, the grant-seeking organizations that I work with, I get a different perspective on what used to be my own world of endowed foundations, the grant makers. The point I would like to emphasize here is that very often foundations have a rather limited insight, to put it mildly, into who their clients are. We like to refer to ourselves as social investors. It gives us, as endowed foundation, a progressive aura. But the reality is that an average investor in a private market context would have much more insight into his clients than foundations have. What do we really know about the problems, challenges, and expectations of our grantees? A lot of work is more supply push than demand pull. I am often struck in representing the grant-seeking organizations by the cultural arrogance of the foundation community. One example is the fact that foundations still favor project funding, while many NGOs are in dire need of institutional funding. The cash reserve positions of NGOs that I know has been dramatically reduced since 2008 for a number of reasons. However, foundations very often still want to fund projects, full stop. While we expect NGOs to be strategic, be mature, and take a long-term view, we frequently do not want to invest in infrastructure. On the contrary, we keep NGOs on a short leash and force them to run frantically around in search of institutional money, while we want to be associated with the sexy stuff, projects. Additionally, if NGOs are trying to build up a reserve to safeguard their future, they are more likely to be punished than rewarded. We create disincentives for the viability and long-term sustainability of great NGOs. I applaud the foundations that are determined to gain insights into the life of their grantees and the circumstances in which they must operate. I applaud the foundations that on this basis are prepared to consider and take action in contributing to institutional funding requests. My second and last remark relates to the debate in the Netherlands with the government, parliament, and the public at large, demanding higher standards of transparency and accountability from us. This is not a Dutch issue. As chair of the Dutch Foundation, I'm part of Daphne, another great organization under the leadership of Rosa Gallego. And we discuss these issues at a pan-European level. I'm perplexed by the fact that the government, the parliament, and the public at large wants transparency to the fullest without a proper analysis of which problems can be solved by transparency. I notice that there is such a fear from their side for scandals, of fraud, and of the perception that foundations are self-serving, that there is little room for nuance between types of foundations or size of foundations when transparency is requested. The mantra of transparency has frankly got us to the point where everything must become so transparent that one cannot see anything anymore. Clear as mud is the appropriate English expression. However, I am equally struck by the argument used by foundations unwilling to become more transparent. Arguments like, it's our own money and we are the private sector, are certainly questionable. Transparency is not always functional. With living donors, in particular, there are legitimate concerns about privacy and security in disclosing private wealth. And of course, it can be counterproductive if there is absolute transparency about individual donations to NGOs functioning in a political context that is hostile to the recipients of grants from abroad. But on the other hand, by challenging transparency, we communicate as foundations that we are afraid of publicity and even of the public. We feed the perception that there is something important to hide, which in turn causes an even greater curiosity about who we are. The fact that we want to be opaque causes unfounded generalizations about us. With a government and the general public demanding transparency and the sector inserting question marks, the two sides hold each other hostage. My plea to get out of this catch-22 situation is that we as foundation consider transparency not as something that is forced upon us, but as something we want, we are entitled to. Transparency is an opportunity to enhance the quality, effectiveness, and legitimacy of foundations. Through my affiliation with so many NGOs and foundations, I do know what great work is being done, work that is hardly known outside the foundation community. We should take the initiative and demonstrate how we improve the quality and the plurality of our society. As foundations, we should articulate our policies to the outside world and emphasize the positive and unique role we can play instead of trying to defend why we are different and too often fly under the radar screen. We are so involved with issues of compliance that we tend to forget about performance. What we do should be more important than who we are. If we focus on what we do instead of who we are, we can take the sting out of the one-dimensional public discussion about transparency and compliance. I hope that I can continue in the years ahead to contribute to the powerful story of private giving for the public good. Thank you.